An M1 Ultra delivers faster performance than the highest-end GPU available, while using 200 watts less power.
What did he say?
An M1 Ultra delivers faster performance than the highest-end GPU available, while using 200 watts less power.
What did he say?
An M1 Ultra delivers faster performance than the highest-end GPU available.
Are you sure about that?
The various Fallout games are supposed to be about building a strong character who must overcome various odds as they claw back at the dangerous world around them. Whether you're playing the original Fallout, Fallout New Vegas, or even Fallout 4, your main goal is to explore the world around you and become a certified god in the meantime. This can be mainly done through killing the creatures of the wasteland and leveling up, which in turn offers you a perk point towards selecting a perk of your choice. The amount of perks you receive per level changes across the franchise, but the importance of them stays the same. Perks are a vital resource and are pivotal towards almost any build you can think of. But not every perk is built the same, and not every perk has as much of an impact on your gameplay experience. Today, we're going to observe the entire Fallout franchise and pick out the absolutely dumb and ridiculous perks across the games. Today, we're covering the worst perks in the Fallout series. The Fallout games are filled with different types of leveling mechanics, whether it's the previously mentioned perks, the small selection of traits you can receive at the start of a game, or even the various skills. Skills? Or video. Now, when it comes to the structure of this video, I'll be listing off the perks in any given random order. I'll be covering basically all of the Fallout games, so look out for your favorite ones throughout the video. Also, feel free to disagree with me on almost any of these topics. This video is entirely subjective, just know that you are wrong and I'm right, so let's move on. Let's start off with something very basic. Night Vision is a perk in Fallout 1 and 2 that increases the brightness of the game by either 10 or 20% respectively. As you can see, this is basically redundant, as you could just, turn up the brightness of your monitor. Now, before you tell me that it affects the calculations for hitting an enemy in the dark, yes, you are correct, it does, by the smallest of margins. Because when it comes to hit chance in the isometric games, they are mostly affected by the weapon skill, with darkness having somewhat of a significant change to said hit chance, but increasing it by 10 or 20% is almost meaningless. So yes, night vision isn't just purely cosmetic, but once you have a weapon skill beyond 100, you've basically mitigated that deficit from being in the dark, rendering the night vision perk absolutely useless. This is made worse by the fact that in Fallout 1 and 2, you only get a perk every 3 levels. So when you really make a bad choice like this, it kind of sticks with you for the rest of the playthrough.
Swatter, who needs a swatter?
Now, Basher is a good perk on paper. Well, actually, not really. But I could see why some people would disagree with me on this one. Basher basically increases the damage you do with your weapon's bash mechanic in Fallout 4, adding new attributes as you level it up, like crippling your opponent. However, bashing in Fallout 4 is not useful or viable as a means to deal damage. Sure, you could commit yourself to a challenge run with only bashing, but as a casual playthrough, it's not that useful. I mean, yes, you can occasionally bash an enemy as they teeter on the edge of life and death to finish them off, or to cancel one of their attacking animations, but increasing this damage is like having an entire perk tree committed to the unarmed attacks mechanic. Oh. let's move on over to Fallout 3. With Broken Steel installed at level 26 with 7 endurance, you could obtain the most broken perk in the game that makes any type of radiation damage basically cease to exist. No, I'm just kidding. Rad Tolerance is a perk that basically removes the effect of minor radiation poisoning. You know, that -1 endurance you suffer at 200 radiation damage. You probably think I read the wiki wrong, or that Rad Tolerance affects all levels of radiation poisoning. No, just the minor effect of -1 endurance, which is basically like adding +1 endurance every time you get irradiated. You know, you could have just used the intense training perk to permanently increase your endurance by 1 and not just compensate for the slight radiation effect you might obtain. Like, yes, this only removes the radiation poisoning effect from one of the tiers of radiation poisoning. It is such a waste of a perk point. Not only will you not usually find yourself slightly irradiated, but if you are, there's a good chance you're going to move up to the next tier anyways. So why is there a perk at level 26 that is only dedicated for one tier of radiation poisoning? I honestly don't understand why this is in the game. Let's move straight on to another Broken Steel DLC perk, that being the perk that pretty much no one asked for. Quantum Chemist instantly converts 10 Nuka-Colas in your inventory into a Nuka-Cola Quantum, which in itself isn't a very useful item, with its only main use being that of regenerating AP passively for the player. If you're doing a very heavy VATS playthrough that relies on the VATS system quite a lot, this could be a very useful perk, but why not just get Grim Reaper's Sprint at this point, which instantly regenerates all AP on a kill in VATS, meaning that with Grim Reaper's Sprint, you essentially have infinite AP as long as you keep killing enemies. The main use of the Quantum Chemist perk that I could think of is probably for the quest The Nuka-Cola Challenge, which asks you to collect a total of 30 Quantums for Sierra Petrova. However, I don't see this as being that outlandish, as the game does a pretty good job of offering a large pool of Quantum spawns, plus the occasional randomized spawn inside of a cola machine. Outside of this, I don't think this perk is useful at all. It's kind of annoying how Broken Steel has some of the best and worst perks in all of Fallout 3. The base game perks of Fallout 3 are actually really well balanced, and the only perks featured on this list from Fallout 3 have all come from Broken Steel, and the last one from Fallout 3 is also going to be from Broken Steel. But before we get onto that, let's move on to something else. We recently covered Grim Reaper's Sprint when we were mentioning Quantum Chemist, so let's cover it again in Fallout New Vegas. Now sure, fully regenerating an entire AP bar on a single VATS kill is a little bit broken, yes. But in New Vegas they compensated for this by absolutely ruining the perk altogether. Now, in New Vegas, Grim Reaper's Sprint will only regenerate 20 action points per kill, which is barely enough to cover the cost of a basic attack as it is. This is a level 20 perk that, dare I say, is just useless to obtain. There are a lot of ways to increase your AP in Fallout New Vegas, but getting the Grim Reaper Sprint kind of seems like a waste, especially when you only get a perk point every 2 levels. I know that the perk was utterly broken in Fallout 3 and is probably one of the most least balanced perks that Fallout 3 ever has, but this ain't right. Oh boy, let's talk about the big boy in the room. You knew he was coming up in this video. With the Dead Money DLC installed, you can obtain the In Shining Armor perk at level 2. This perk boasts an impressive extra 5 damage threshold in metal armor against laser weapons, with an additional 2 damage threshold with reflective eyewear or helmets. I mean, if this perk actually worked, it would still be trash, but let's continue. This perk doesn't work at all. It's kind of a meme in the New Vegas community at this point, but In Shining Armor has absolutely zero effect on your overall damage threshold. The perk also claims to reflect incoming laser attacks, but that doesn't happen either. Yeah, this perk is just a big waste, and I still can't believe it's not fixed, although I don't think it's going to get fixed anytime soon. Vans. Oh boy. This perk is just, ugh. We have all heard the numerous jokes, like with In Shining Armor, about how we should pick this perk at the start of a playthrough. Oh, pick Vans, and how useless it is as a perk. For context, Vans is a perk that will highlight the path to the closest quest target when you use VATS. Not only is this made redundant by the fact that you literally are provided a quest marker for almost every quest, but it's also made worse by the fact that you can only use this perk passively in the VATS system. Ew. Now, Bethesda did try to fix it with the addition of Nuka World by giving the player +2 perception at the second tier of Vans, which does somewhat refund the perk points into special points for perception, but you'd be better off just not taking this perk, like, ever. Now, let's cover the last Fallout 3 perk, and yes, it's from Broken Steel again. This perk is very simple, prevents any addiction to alcohol. Now, I don't know about you, but in Fallout 3, I don't usually catch myself drinking alcohol a whole bunch. If you do get addicted in the odd chance, you can simply visit a doctor in any town and have it fixed. Funnily enough, this perk does come back in Fallout 4 and was made much better, having 3 different tiers that really separate it out. For example, the effects of alcohol are doubled at tier 2, and your luck is increased by 3 at tier 3, which is a lot more than what the basic anti-addiction perk does in Fallout 3. Now, I could be wrong on this one, but I don't catch myself drinking alcohol, like I said, in Fallout 3 at all, so being immune to addictions with alcohol just feels very meaningless. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a better perk you could pick here. Moving on. Do you have 0 social skills? Do you often find yourself becoming best friends with a literal rock? Then you should pick the empathy perk. This useless piece of trash for a perk will let you know what people think of you, so you don't have to actually remember your course of actions and understand the tone that they give off with their speech. Not only is this perk an insult to the perk system overall, but it's an insult to the player's memory as well, as it assumes that you can't remember what exactly you've done in your playthrough. Why do you need this perk to tell you that? It's worthless. Moving on to the last of the isometric Fallout perks, we have Pathfinder. Pathfinder is a perk that decreases the amount of time that passes when maneuvering through the world map. Travel time has no impact on the game whatsoever. The time limit you receive in Fallout 1 is generous, and it doesn't really reduce encounters or anything. The only time I can see this perk being useful is in Fallout 2, for when you're doing the Something Strange Happening in Modok quest, when both Modok and the Slags are on the brink of war and you have 30 days to track down Carl. It's here that you'll find this 30-day trek from Modok to the Den back to Modok again to be quite a close one. The game barely gives you 30 days worth of travel time before the time will run out. You will usually find that this is a very close call. However, with the Pathfinder perk, you will be able to complete this quest without any issue whatsoever. But that's it. That's all I can think of. Pathfinder being a useful perk for this one quest. Really, outside of that, it doesn't really do anything. Like I said, travel time doesn't really have an effect on the game. It doesn't lower encounters or anything like that. It just reduces your travel time, which does nothing. Oh, I can tell that people are going to disagree with me on this one. Here and Now basically pushes you into the next level, instantly leveling you up once you receive the perk. It is, in my opinion, a complete waste. The various Fallout games offer more than enough ways to level up and gain XP, and using a perk point that you only get a limited supply of for this reason is just absurd. It's a mistake a lot of us have made, and some may not see it as a bad perk at all, but I'm adding it to the list because there is most likely always a better perk that you can pick. Now, with that being said, I can understand why the final couple of perks could be defended. However, perk points, like I've pointed out multiple times in this video, are incredibly useful and limited, except for Fallout 4. So if you catch yourself playing New Vegas running away from Private Kowalski, then you better make sure you invest these points wisely. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. As always, more content to come. If you like the idea of challenge runs with a variety of flair, like playing Fallout 4 with every spawn being a legendary, then head on over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Jabo, for some good old content. Until next time, I'll see you guys then, and goodbye.
over the years I've featured quite a few different music formats, and in amongst those were ones that were aimed specifically at children. Now, when I was a child, my age was in single digits in the 1970s, I'd have something like this, the Fisher-Price record player, which was really just a music box, and it was capable of playing things like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. But in the 80s, towards the end of the 80s, things changed a little bit when somebody realised that if you were to create a product for children that could play music, but that music was contemporary hits, you'd be able to get those children to buy those hits, thereby increasing the money that went into the pockets of the record labels. So the one that I featured from the late 1980s, from the analog tape era, that falls within this category was the Pocket Rockers.
Tiny players, tiny tapes, pocket rockers, tapes and accessories sold separately, batteries not included, from Fisher-Price.
But moving along to the year 2000 and the personal digital music player had become commonplace, so along came hit clips.
Hit it! Coming at you right between the ears is hit clips. You can collect them all. Hit clips!
But of course, technology never stands still. By the time we get to 2003, there's another well-established product on the market that's ripe for converting into a toy for children. That's the portable personal video disc player. So, following the pattern of what had gone before, a new, cheaper version of that was created, and that was called Video Now.
For kids on the go, Video Now is the portable pocket-sized media player with its own customized software. Each personal video disc features 25 uninterrupted minutes of your favorite programs.
Video Now. You can watch your favorite shows on your own personal video disc player. Players, discs, and headphones sold separately. Batteries not included.
Now, over the years, there have been some pretty compromised ways to watch video on the go. But to use the modern day vernacular, if you thought watching SpongeBob SquarePants on a Game Boy Micro was less than ideal, Video Now says, hold my pint. It's hard to believe that this thing actually came out with a screen of this quality. It seems like they went to a lot of trouble and then really cheaped out at this point. The screen resolution is 80 by 80, it's non-backlit, it's got 16 grayscales, no colour here, and the video is running at 15 frames per second. And it's very difficult to get it on the camera with the light in the right place so that it's not reflecting off the screen, but it's lighting up the screen enough for you to see it. So I'm going to have to show a lot of B-roll in with this, I think. Of course, I don't have the history with this that some viewers would do. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have some very fond childhood memories of owning one of these things and it was their favourite toy and all that kind of stuff. But you've got to bear in mind, I was in my early 30s when this came out. One thing I will say, the sound quality on this, really not bad at all, and in fact that's what does all the heavy lifting. That's filling in the story. You're hearing the story more than you're watching it really on the screen. But yeah, if you just had to rely on the images there, at times it's really quite difficult to see what's happening at all. It's got to be the worst video quality format that's ever been commercially released. I'm not talking about early John Logie Baird experiments here. I'm talking about things where you could go in a shop and buy a video on a format to watch on your player. I mean, it's even worse than Cartrivision, and that wasn't all that. I suppose I should also draw the attention to the fact that despite this being very much a portable format, it has zero shock protection, so even the most gentle of knocks will cause the video to skip. The Video Now format was known as the PVD, or Personal Video Disc, and each one of these could hold approximately 25 minutes of video, which is enough for 2 episodes of SpongeBob. But whilst they might look the same size as both a GameCube disc and a CD single, they are in fact a little bit larger. These have a diameter of 8.5 centimetres, whereas both these are 8 centimetres. So I'll just give you a quick tour of the player. Now, surrounding the screen are buttons for play, pause, stop, next and previous chapters. Along the top, you can't see them here, are wheels for the volume and contrast, and on the back is the battery compartment that takes 2 AA's, and on the bottom is a headphone jack for the mono sound output. Now, pressing the play button turns the machine on, and once it's on, it reads the disc and you're greeted with a basic menu which lists the chapters on the disc. Now, this one has 2 episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants followed by one advert for another Nickelodeon show. Now when this came out, it cost $50, and in a similar manner to the original Game Boy, which for context I should mention was launched 14 years earlier in 1989, this one had a front light that was available as an optional extra so you could watch the screen in the dark. Now as you can see towards the bottom right here, there's a triple disc set which costs around $15, and then over on this page we've got some of the single disc titles, and you can see that those cost around $8 a piece. You might have thought that a low-resolution black and white screen like this would really hamper sales, but apparently after the first year on sale, which was 2003, they'd managed to shift 1 million of the players and 4 million of the disc to go along with them. But despite that success, after that first year, Hasbro decided to completely overhaul the product by adding in colour. And to show you one of those colour models, well, I'll have to turn on the time machine to bring back one that's brand new in box. And of course I'll need some new colour PVDs to go along with that. Rather than just being an upgrade, this is really a complete relaunch of the product. I mean, it shares the same name, but we've got our new colour players specifically for playing these colour discs, and the discs themselves are a different size to the previous ones. These are larger, they're 10.7 centimetres in diameter. Again, that's a non-standard size. Of course, your standard CD or DVD or Blu-ray or UHD Blu-ray, they're all 12 centimetres across. The reason for the non-standard size is because there was authoring software for PVDs that you could purchase, and therefore you'd be able to make your own discs for this machine, but to ensure that you're not just using any old discs, you had to buy the special PVDs, which would no doubt cost quite a bit more. Now, with the discs I've got here, I've got two sealed ones and this Tony Hawk's one here, and these two will have live action video in them, and that's something I'm interested in seeing on this player to see how well it copes with that. We're still dealing with the 15 frames per second here though, and the resolution on the player is a startlingly high 216 by 160 pixels. Well, it's a big step up, of course, from the 80 by 80 pixels of the previous model. So yeah, really a completely new system. And the earlier one, well, it shares very little in common with this. But I think what we need to do is to open this up. Yeah, it's been in its protective packaging ever since it was made, and yeah, some collector's item. This will be worth a fortune in the future. I very much doubt it, but it's definitely not going to be worth very much in a moment because I'm going to get it out of this box. And talking about packaging, if you look along the bottom here, you'll see various different languages and flags. Of course, that means that this is the model that was sold in Europe. I don't know whether the original black and white version ever made its way over here. If it did, it would have only been on sale for a short amount of time. This turned up a year after the original one, and once this turned up, there'd be very little incentive to get that black and white version. After all, this one even has a backlight on the display, and it cost roughly the same amount of money. There's the usual emphasis, as with all Tiger/Hasbro.
Oh, of course, I've muted myself. Never mind. All you heard me was complaining about why this exists. What? Like with DVD, but not as good? No.
Fingers crossed, the damn thing actually works. So there you go, that's what's in the box, the instructions and the device itself. No batteries and no discs. Now, talking about batteries, the compartment on the back here is held in with screws, and that gives you the impression that they want an adult to replace the batteries in here, just like with the previous model. And it's kind of going against the whole kind of cool teenage vibe that they're trying to project here when they're expecting you not to put your own batteries in the thing. Now you see we've got the controls on the side here.
I don't understand the point of this.
If you hold those down, they'll also fast forward and rewind. That was a feature that wasn't on the black and white version. You could only skip chapters. Of course, we've got stop, play and pause. On the bottom we've got the eject button, DC power input and headphone output. I believe the sound is just mono on this. And inside here looks like any normal disc mechanism, but just due to the difference in the size of the casing, if I was to say try and put in a 12cm UHD Blu-ray, whilst I'm sure the sensor would have fitted on that spindle just fine if you could have pushed it down. You can't push it down because the case is in the way, and of course you couldn't play it. Now, I believe that some people, when they were making their own PVDs, they used blank CDs and then cut the edge off the CD to get it to fit. It seems a lot of trouble to go to, but people do like playing around with things, so I can understand why. Anyway, talking about playing around, let's put some batteries in this and see if we can get it working. It takes 3 AA batteries. Now that's one more than the black and white player needed, but it's still very impressive. They could power a portable video disc player with a backlit colour screen quite so efficiently. Now, just like the previous one, there's no separate on-off button. I've noticed up here we've got a contrast and a volume now on the corners, but on the earlier one you just press the play button to turn it on, so let's see what that does. Yeah, the screen's on. Well, that's a good start, and yeah, you can see there it says no disc. So, let's rectify that. Still very blocky looking images there on that startup. Okay, volume's up to full. There's no sound. That's the volume control there. It's not oxidised, there's just nothing at all. That's maximum. Wonder if we've got anything coming through that headphone socket. Let's find out. Well, that's working. Of course, we've got it content matches. Maybe I best unplug the thing anyway. But yeah, the speaker's not working. So as you can see here, the screen is really very prone to picking up reflections, which is really making it quite difficult to show on camera. We've got a contrast control here, and that goes from either too dark all the way up to washed out. So once you get it somewhere in the middle to what would be the sweet spot, it's still quite difficult to see the screen properly because it turns out the backlight is very dim. Now, of course, that will be to save battery power, and it's non-adjustable. But I was expecting this screen to be a little bit more vibrant, and as it is, it doesn't look too much different from one of those screens that requires external lighting.
You gotta ask yourself some questions.
Does your video player offer over 100 discs to pick from?
Does your video player have a super bright screen?
No, it doesn't. Now, this screen is never going to look bright and vibrant. However, I do think it could perhaps look a little bit better than this, because I don't think the production value on this disc is going to be of the highest quality. It's probably all just shot on videotape. So let's try something else. I've got this still sealed Star Wars disc, that's easy to say, and this one contains 3 discs. I'm sure they'll have spent a little bit more on the production values here. We've got disc 1, the story of Luke Skywalker, disc 2, the story of Anakin Skywalker, and disc 3, behind the scenes of Star Wars. So let's open it up and give this one a go. Now, I'm not sure how good your eyesight is, but in case you can't read this section here, it says for use exclusively with the Video Now Color Personal Video Players, plays only on the Video Now Color Personal Video Players, will not play on the Video Now Black and White player. Rather obvious because the disc won't even fit in the black and white player. However, in a bit we'll try it the other way around and see if we can get a black and white disc in the color video player and what happens when you try and play that. But for the moment, let's have a go with this one in the color player. Now, since the speaker isn't working on this one, I'm going to plug the headphone output directly into the camera. It is mono audio, but you're going to hear it on both channels.
Jumping through things, and I look so brave. It was pretty exciting. I felt very action star.
In Phantom Menace, there were 4 or 5 Jedi. In this one, there are 400 or 500 Jedi, which is an amazing sight.
Okay, now I just want to say something about this screen quality. It really has been a bit of a struggle trying to record it for this video, and that's because it's just such a poor quality. I understand that the Video Now is a product that was designed for children, and I'm a grown adult in 2022 reviewing this product, but still, 2004 when this came out was not the dark ages as far as flat screen technology goes. This is just a very poor example of it. I understand, of course, they would have been under various constraints. One would have been the cost of the overall product and therefore the cost of the components that go in it. But also, with regard to this screen, it would have especially been important that it had a low energy consumption, given that this thing just runs off those 3 AAAs. But even bearing all those things in mind, this is a terrible quality screen, and much better things were available back then. In fact, let me just get my Game Boy Micro. Right, here we go. So it isn't the same year. 2005 that came out as opposed to 2004 and the video now colour. But we're in the same kind of ballpark here as to the kind of screen that they could have put on this thing if they'd have wanted. No doubt the thing would have cost more and it would have used more battery power, but maybe they just should have stuck more batteries in it or used rechargeables. Of course, the Game Boy Micro had the benefit of running off rechargeable batteries and also coming in at a higher price point. But this is the only device I've got from this year, just to give you a bit of a comparison as to what kind of screens were available around about 2004, 2005. Now, I promised before that we'd find out what happens if you try and play one of the original black and white Video Now discs in a colour player. So let's have a look at that now. Of course, as I mentioned, it can't go the other way around because the discs won't fit in the other machine, but we'll see what this one does. And there you go, it's working just fine. So yeah, if you upgraded from your black and white player to a colour one, you'd still be able to play all the black and white discs that you'd already collected.
But it's totally top secret. Let's do it.
Okay, so just preemptively answering a couple of questions. For example, what happens when you put a PVD in a computer? Well, the answer is the computer identifies the disc as a CD. The data on this SpongeBob black and white disc takes up 315 megs, whereas the colour Tony Hawk disc holds nearly 600 megabytes. Now, the contents of a disc look like this. It's a series of audio files, and one of those files from the black and white disc sounds like this. The contents of a colour disc look and act much the same, however, the audio on these isn't as recognisable. You might be wondering if the Video Now was capable of playing back a normal audio 8cm CD. Well, the answer to that is no, and that answer is the same whether or not you're using the colour or the original black and white machine. But if you really want to know more about the technical side of the PVD, you'd be better off looking at an old thread that's on the Video Help forum, and I've linked to that in the video description. I just want to go through the history of the various Video Now players. So it all started off with the $50 original black and white version in 2003, which turned out to be a bit of a surprise hit for Tiger. So they followed it up the next year, 2004, with the Video Now Colour. At $75, it cost $25 more than the original, and the discs were around $1 more, at $9 a piece for those single disc titles. Now, apparently, sales of the colour model were lower than had been expected, and resulted in Hasbro throwing a lot more money into advertising the product than they originally intended. Now, the next year, 2005, they introduced another upgrade to the product, which seemed very much influenced by the Game Boy Advance SP. Now, this one boasted a larger screen, which also looks quite a bit brighter in any demonstrations I've seen online. And the player also gained some very limited interactivity abilities, which worked with a small number of discs and let the player access some simple menu-based quiz-type games. But notice, however, they're dealing with diminishing returns at this point now. The new XP player at $60 was $15 less than the previous year's colour model, and the discs, those were now down to $6 for some of the single disc titles. And then on top of that, they're still having to throw loads of money at celebrity tie-ins.
I wonder where did the copper and iron contamination come in on the thing?
Another model of player that I skipped over. Around the time of the launch of the colour model, a reskinned version of it called the Video Now Junior was created for even younger children.
Ah, now I know.
They had their own range of preschool type titles to go along with it. But moving on to the last update to the Video Now range, now that one came in 2006 with the Video Now Colour FX. Now this was just a translucent version of the colour model from 2 years earlier.
Video Now is your backstage pass.
Players and discs sold separately, batteries not included. Plays only Video Now discs.
I want my video now!
So it feels very much like a step backwards and an end-of-the-line product, and that's probably because it was. Now, I'm sure you're aware that expressing any opinion about anything at all on the internet nowadays is very dangerous, but my opinion on the Video Now, ignore it, it's irrelevant, because if you had one as a child and you've got very fond memories of this toy, I understand that. I've got toys that I had as a child which wouldn't give me 1 minute of entertainment now. but I could play with for days on end when I was a child. So things are a little bit different when you're a child. So if you've got fond memories, hang on to those. They're almost certainly better than the reality of the product itself. And I'm sure I'm going to get the usual maybe yours is faulty type of thing. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But truthfully, it wasn't a great product when it was out, but it was good enough for what it was intended for, and that was to entertain children. Well, that and sell them a load of extra discs and things. But from what I've heard from people, they said they just had the one disc with it. And a lot of these things seem to end up in closeout sales where they put a load of discs with them. It wasn't on the market for all that long, so I'd imagine quite a lot of the people that have memories of it probably got one in a sale with a few discs and were more than happy. And talking of prices, these are the last official ones that I could get from the Video Now website, and you can see that the colour FX players were being sold at this point at $30, with single disc titles costing $6. But look at the bundle on the XP at the bottom left. Now that's a player together with a number of titles for just $50, and according to this other advert, that bundle included a total of 17 PVDs, so the whole thing originally supposedly had a $120 value. Now, I'm sure there are quite a few kids who got this set and were totally happy with what they got and never thought to buy another PVD. I also suspect that Hasbro weren't as happy with how Video Now had gone from being quite a big success to a closeout special in just over 3 years. I was just thinking about how long ago it was since Video Now came out and how our sensibilities have changed quite a bit since then, and I'm not sure whether a product like this would be able to exist nowadays. By that I mean, the first Video Now came out in 2003, the black and white version. We're talking nearly 20 years or so ago now. Now, you'd be surprised if things hadn't changed in 20 years, but I'm not sure whether or not you'd be able to launch a product like this and for it to be accepted. You try to sell the latest pop music artist to a young child, who's then going to pester their parents for the money, and the money is going to end up in the pockets of the record labels. It all just seems a little bit cynical.
Hot celebrities like Raven Simone and Romeo.
And music videos from Hillary Duff,
Jesse McCartney, and Simple Plan.
Even go behind the scenes on the video shoot for Simple Plan's Welcome to My Life.
I'll say with my toy when I was a kid, the Fisher-Price thing, you got the toy and it came with the discs and it played nursery rhymes, and that was kind of seems a lot more innocent in a way.
More than 100 discs to pick from. More discs, more fun. On Video Now.
Each sold separately. Batteries not included. Only plays Video Now discs.
But I hope you've enjoyed having a look at the Video Now here today. I've certainly enjoyed having a play around with it for the first time, and I do see the appeal of it, but with the benefit of history, it's not looking great nowadays. But yeah, if you enjoyed it when you were a kid, just hold on to those memories, but don't go back and have a look at it because you might be a little bit disappointed. Anyway, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching. Okay, now this video starts with a bit of a story. We're going back to January 2020, and this is when I saw a background music player .
What do you do when you come across strong smells in the kitchen or bathroom? You probably grab the air freshener and spray it around the room. That's okay, but here's something else you can do which is much simpler but equally effective. Strike a match and then blow it out almost immediately. As if by magic, the smell seems to disappear. It's not just smoke masking the other smell, but there are millions of little particles of carbon spreading out through the room, and they are very good at grabbing hold of the molecules that create the bad smell. Really works. Give it a try.
Well, there you go. That's it, in less than a minute. And it's done.
What is up, fellow YouTubers? We're back at it with another video. Sitting here chilling like a rock star villain. So, I got 11 days till I have to move out, which You know, I'll be moved out before the 30th. Don't worry about that. I'll be moving into my new place soon. Very, very soon. I won't say when. You know, kind of keep a bit of mystery about it, but I'm moving in tomorrow, to be honest. Looking forward to that, YouTube, man. I've been stoked all
YouTube. YouTube. Looking forward to that, YouTube.
the new location I'm gonna be at.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, YouTube.
Hello? Yes. This is Josh Saunders. Prank calls. That was funny. That was a obvious prank phone call. Good one, you got me. So, a company sent me some Boost pre-game energy focused amplifier. 2 free samples here. I'm not a sponsor. This is just, like I said, free advertisement. Just because I'm mildly OCD will stir in the opposite direction too. That's not bad. Again, this is not a sponsor, but free advertisements. Richie right in the house. What's up, Richie? Let's see how focused I really get after drinking it. Yeah, not a sponsor, but alright, so we'll give that a second to kick in, see how it fucking do. So, I got my bedding washed, finally, that needed to be washed. While he washed something. Yeah, my trolls are smart asses, I love it. I'm still recovering from eye surgery. My right eye is not looking as red as it was. The only reason I didn't move into my new apartment sooner is because the weather's been shit and I've been recovering from eye surgery. I'll go back to Colorado on the 23rd for post-op so they can check on my eyes to see how they're doing.
Check out my eyes, YouTube. Yeah.
He says his eyes look demonic, tubes. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it does look a little demonic, doesn't it? Your mother's in here with us, Harris. It's surreal, YouTube. When I'm used to not being able to see the greatest, it's, you know, it's a bit of an adjustment. Lazy Eye is motivated now. Thank you, Devil Zero, for donating 20 bucks. Glad your eye is doing well. I'll let you in on a secret. Next summer, I might be going to London to see Big Ben, which would be pretty freaking sweet. There's no guarantees on it though, because plans can change. But my dad said he wants me and him to go on a trip to London to see Big Ben. And I think that would be just freaking sweet. Actually no, I consider myself a goth hippie. A goth hippie slash metalhead would be a bit more accurate. Hippies don't eat meat. That's a stereotype, my dude. That is a stereotype. Burn your hat. That's funny. Goth hippie metalhead cowboy from hell. That hat is about to fossilize Cobes. That hat looks like a crumpled up trash bag. Well, that's your opinion. I like my hat. Those straight eyes are just weird. Well, I'm sure people are gonna, you know, it's gonna take some time for people to get used to me having straight eyes that aren't lazy and drifting like a chameleon. I'll tell you what though, anesthesia is one hell of a drug. I love it. If you're getting any sort of surgery done, and you have the money and the option to get anesthesia, would recommend you to. You can't buy anesthesia off of Amazon, dude. That's given to a licensed provider. So I should be able to get monitorization privileges back on my YouTube. We'll see. I will reapply for that later. You know? The thing about getting monetization rights back on YouTube is that it could very easily be taken away again. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't put it past my trolls to be like, oh, he finally got his monetization privileges back on YouTube. Oh, can't have that nonsense. If we can sell enough t-shirts next month, I will donate $100 to St. Jude's. Not even playing, dude. Straight up. Being real right now. Shit, I would donate $1 million to St. Jude's if I could. I'm not even playing. Oh, jeez. Bill Barr reference, huh? Or Bill Burr. Yeah. Bill Burr's a funny motherfucker, dude. And there were some people who get so pissed off at Bill Barr, they call him a sexist and a woman hater, but it's like, dude, his wife writes most of his jokes. Like, come on, dude, or at least half of them, right? What about all these videos of you jerking off for girls who didn't? Well, first of all, I'm not gonna do that unless they want it and they're of age. So fuck you. That's cute how he flexes at his reflection. No, I'm flexing for the fans because your boy Cobra's got some sexy biceps. Yeah. Fucking trap muscles for days, dude. If Clint's not too busy, he says. Yeah, my dad actually has his schedule cleared for tomorrow. He just said, what's our regard? People are calling me a retard, but they're spelling it wrong on purpose to troll me and make fun of me because I'll admit it, my spelling is not the greatest.
Amazing. Amazing.
Sad troll, and I feel sorry for you. You wish you were as cool as my dad. That's why you're impersonating him on Streamlabs. You know why my trolls impersonate my dad on YouTube? Because one, they're jealous I have a father who gives a fuck about me and cares. And two, my trolls have daddy issues. And three, my trolls are jealous. Or four, they're just bored. Make more wands, lazy alcoholic. Yeah, because I'm such a fucking alcoholic that I have no alcohol and I'm not drinking right now.
Yeah, right now, because you run out of alcohol.
Don't need to, my notes is clear. Hey Joshua Son, we've noticed that misspelled on your most recent. Okay, my new most recent shirt is spelled incorrectly, is it? Well, let's do that. Let's check and see that. Oh, I forgot the hyphen. You look like you smell bad. And you look like you need some friends. Thank you for the $4.20. I appreciate it. Like, who gives a shit if I forgot the hyphen? I know it's not phonically correct, but who gives a shit? Like, who gives a shit if it's spelled incorrectly? If you're gonna be that anal about it, it's a funny t-shirt. It's supposed to be funny. Who gives a fuck if I miss a little hyphen, you know? Nope, my dad punched you in the eye for being a stupid troll. Dude, if you like having warlord jizz in your eye, hey man, no judgment. It's 2020. I'm pretty progressive. Oh my god, dude. My trolls are so fucking desperate. It's obviously more miserable in life than I am. And this is coming from the autistic. I feel sorry for my trolls. Pope's got that red eye from... That's nasty, dude. Pope's got that red eye from surgery, and he's recovering quite well. That is just fucking nasty. React to bite size, that's funny. Hey, you know what? That's a good idea. Trolls are obsessed with Josh. Feel sorry for them. Right? They are. Like, they hate my freaking guts. But they can't get enough of me, man. I love it. So, yeah, we'll do a bite-sized video to react.
You know what? He's onto something there. He is onto something. I hate to watch him, and yet I carry on watching him. Why is that? Why is that? Oh, ramming road construction. Yeah, that's more like it. I'll watch that.
First, a wide area would be deforested in order to clear all vegetation. Then, in the strip where the track had been projected, the topsoil would be removed until a solid base was found. Then on this base, the curbs were placed appropriate to the chosen width for the road. Large stones were placed between the curves to serve as foundations, and on top of them smaller stone layers all mixed up with fine aggregates to fill the gaps. Finally, the surface layer, a mixture of gravel, sand, and clay, was added. Tipper carts moved along the already compacted layers to deposit the material for the next layer. After tipping out heaps of material, it had to be spread out with planks, watered from barrels, and finally, compacted with rollers. It was a continuous process until the last layer, the surface layer, was finished, which was composed of carefully selected materials of the highest quality. On its surface moved the traffic of carts and draft animals. The final geometry of the road had slightly sloping sides to allow rainwater to be drained outwards and away from the road. And a relevant fact recently discovered: about 20 meters from the road on both sides, ditches were placed to prevent access to the road from unauthorized vehicles. These ditches, the existence of which have only recently been discovered, also increase the visibilities of one's peripheral view, avoiding any surprise from wild animals, and they also made life difficult for possible highway robbers.
I'm from Chicago, and around here, we like to say, there are two seasons, winter and road construction. Every spring, orange cones appear along the highways, the lanes narrow, and big yellow machines set to work. They grind up the asphalt and batter down the curves, and lay down endless loads of gravel and concrete. When the work's done, the highway's a thing of beauty, for a few months. And a new crop of cracks and bumps and potholes sprouts, and the cycle begins again. Although most of America's interstate highways are only 50 or 60 years old, virtually all of them have been rebuilt at least once, and some, like those around Chicago, have to be almost constantly patched and resurfaced. When you compare the Roman roads, whose huge paving stones and elegant bridges seem untouched by the millennia, it's hard not to think that our modern methods are lacking. American expressways and Roman roads, of course, were built with fundamentally different materials and for fundamentally different purposes. But, if nothing else, comparing them has the effect of accentuating the scale and achievements of the Roman road network. By the 2nd century, there were well over 50,000 miles, that is, 80,000 kilometers, of Roman roads, radiating out from the golden milestone in the Forum to every corner of the empire. Conduits of trade, instruments of rule, monuments to the imperial order, they ran in uncompromising lines through every terrain. Roman roads skirted the burning edge of the Sahara, where sand drifted among the milestones. They ran through the marshes of northern Europe, suspended on wooden pilings over seas of mud. They cut through the heart of the Alps, grooved and banked to keep wagons from hurling over icy cliffs. Perhaps the best sense of the network's scale comes from the so-called Poitinger map, a medieval copy of a late Roman atlas. Though distorted to fit a narrow scroll, the map is remarkably detailed, featuring regions, peoples, and no fewer than 2,700 places, all connected by the straight red lines of the Roman roads. The distances between towns are carefully marked, as are way stations along the highways. The Roman roads were equally impressive on the ground. Designed by legionary surveyors and engineers, and often built by detachments of troops, they were marvels of practical engineering. The most familiar method of constructing them, used for the great highways of central Italy, began with digging the roadbed down to a firm layer of subsoil. The trench was then filled with compacted layers of rubble and gravel, and capped with a pavement of local stone, cambered to shed water, and wedged in place with curb blocks. There was always, however, a great deal of regional variation. Outside cities, roads were often surfaced with gravel or packed dirt instead of paving stones. In deserts, they might be little more than a simple track cleared of rocks. In swamps, they were supported with an intricate underpinning of beams and pilings. On the approaches to large cities, and in hazardous mountain passes, ruts were sometimes carved into the pavement to both control traffic and prevent accidents. The highways of Italy were paved to a width of 14 Roman feet, that is, a bit more than 4 meters, and often flanked by gravel paths for riders and pedestrians. Tall milestones stood along the shoulder, inscribed with the name and titles of the reigning emperor, and the distance to the nearest town or landmark. Every few miles, a clump of trees might mark an inn or country shrine, and when tombs began to appear by the roadside, a city was never far away. The Roman road network was designed, first and foremost, for military use. Soldiers built the roads, guarded their strategic points, and used them constantly. In fact, the whole design of the roads, with their undeviating lines and long straight slopes, was shaped by the single aim of allowing infantry to march as quickly as possible from point to point. Roads were used, however, by all kinds of traffic. We might imagine a farmer and his mule bringing a load of vegetables to market, a woman walking to visit her mother in the next village, a wealthy man in a litter being carried to a fashionable healing sanctuary, a shepherd herding his flocks by the roadside, and occasionally, galloping along the bridle paths, a rider of the imperial post. Back on the road. Many aspects of Roman highways seem modern. They had waysides, they had highway police, they had tolls, and they were characterized by feats of civil engineering that would not be excelled until the 19th century. Take, for example, the Roman road to the St. Bernard passes of the Alps, which sprang over mountain chasms, drove through boulder-strewn slopes, and culminated in a spectacular rock cut over 220 meters long. Roman roads were served by thousands of bridges. Hundreds of these have survived to the present day, and a remarkable number still carry traffic. One of the most impressive, pictured in this video, kindly sent to me by YouTuber Unordinary World, is located in Mérida, Spain, the Roman Emerita Augusta. At 790 meters, this is the longest extant Roman bridge. It was used by traffic until 1991. Other bridges were even more impressive. The Bridge of Augustus at Narni, for example, was 33 meters high and featured a central arch 32 meters wide. It seems to have stood more or less intact until the Middle Ages, when it was partly leveled by earthquakes. The Romans also carved road tunnels through dangerous mountain terrain. Perhaps the most famous example is in the Forlo Pass, where a tunnel 40 meters long and wide enough for 2 lanes of wagon traffic carried the Via Flaminia through a high ridge. The tunnel was used by cars until the 1980s. Perhaps the most awe-inspiring section of the entire Roman road network was located on what is now the border of Serbia and Romania, where the Danube rushes through the rugged gorge called the Iron Gates. Just below the gates, Trajan built the greatest of all Roman bridges, a kilometer-long leviathan supported by 20 immense piers. Upstream, Trajan's engineers hacked a highway through the riverside cliffs, suspending part of the roadbed over the water on enormous beams. Roman roads were designed to carry the traffic of their day, riders, wagons, and, above all, marching soldiers, in any weather. They were meant to be both convenience and symbol, and served both purposes well. The sheer durability of the system, with its hundreds of still functioning bridges, is incredible. But the Roman roads, like any roads, were very far from immortal. Milestones record numerous repairs and reconstructions of the major roads. The inscriptions sometimes mention damage caused by heavy rain or flash floods, but the most common causes given for repair are age and wear. The famous Via Appia was repaired many times over the centuries, and often improved with new bridges and viaducts. One inscription notes the resurfacing of a worn-out section of limestone with harder-wearing basalt. Despite the awesome longevity of their bridges, most Roman roads vanished during the Middle Ages. Yet in the early modern period, when European engineers began to build new highways, they consciously imitated the Roman roads, sometimes to the point of trying to reconstruct an ancient road network. The pioneering road-building methods of Scottish engineer John McAdam, likewise, were partly inspired by Roman techniques. Modern expressways, however, are very different beasts from Roman roads. First and foremost, they're designed to carry motor vehicles, which are not only heavier than horse-drawn carts, but also far faster and much more numerous. In terms of sheer stress, a busy section of American highway probably takes more punishment in a single day than most Roman roads did in an entire year. Modern roads are engineered to handle those enormous stresses without being prohibitively expensive to build. In practice, that means a lot of reinforced concrete and asphalt. They're highly effective, and as highly cost-effective, these materials begin to break down fairly quickly under heavy traffic. In this sense, and in the sense that even most expressway bridges in America are designed to last only a half-century or so, modern highways really are less durable than Roman roads. All this really means, of course, is that modern highways serve a very different purpose from their ancient counterparts. Roman highways weren't better engineered. They were just products of construction methods that were perfectly tailored to the traffic and terrain of the ancient Mediterranean. The fact that ancient and modern highways aren't directly comparable, however, does nothing to diminish the achievement of the roads that were one of the greatest products and most enduring legacies of the Roman peace.
Alright, okay, cool.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry to bother you. Can we just ask you how happy you're feeling right now?
I'm bloody miserable, actually. Pubs are shut. What do you expect?
That's good. Alright. A graphics card being repaired.
Hola chicos, welcome to another Word Electronics Repair video. This is a graphics card that I bought as one of the batch of 13 back in November last year. I think actually probably bought this one back end of September. It waited in the UK for a while, so I was over there. It's a Gigabyte 980 Ti, GTX 980 Ti. And the guy I bought this from, it ended up costing me £55 to win in auction, £4.99 for postage, so it was actually £59.99 UK pounds, £60. The seller claims that this one, that the middle fan was changed. This was, he said, the middle fan was changed. And actually it has a different slightly label on it, that looks slightly different. The middle fan was changed, and then he thinks the resistor was knocked off while it was being changed, and then it doesn't work. Well, I can say pretty confidently that middle fan has actually been changed on this. But I'm a little bit concerned about this card, and that's because if you look at the bottom edge of it, it appears to be warped. Can you see that kind of like comes down this way here? Like the card is somehow warped. Can't quite see. Okay. Well, that's the first thing I noticed. It appears to be slightly warped. Screw missing here. A few more screws missing. So let's get the rest of the screws out and let's see what we've actually been sold. Strange, but this seems to be like very difficult to get apart. I mean, there's 4 screws here, there's only 3 were fitted. There's none of these were fitted. There's some more screws, but they have to be released from the other side, and then this back plate will come off. So I don't understand what's holding this in place, but it does not want to easily give this up. I mean, this end of the board is even like bending a little bit, yeah? It's like something in the middle of this. It's almost like glued into place. Okay, let me go a little bit further. I've got it off. It was basically like it was practically glued to the GPU. It was very difficult to lift off. It's just sticky. That took a hell of a job to get this off here. Okay, so let's take some. I took some screws out of this originally. I can put this all back together. So did he change the fan? Well, possible. I mean, these fans are all kind of like held together. Where, you know, they fasten together with just little connectors. So it's possible that fan's been changed. It does look different from the other ones, slightly different variety. So yeah, that's possible. So here we have it, the card. Still looks slightly warped to me. Let's get the backing plate off it and let's have a look. Now it's possible, in the difficulty I had getting this off here, if he's tried, he could have maybe actually dropped it. You know, I had to use a spudger to do it again, like a little crowbar, to get it off. So it's possible something got damaged. You could be quite honest about this. Take it off. Let's see how flat it sits on the bench once this is off. Okay. One more. Okay. Right, let's have a look to see what the situation is with this one. Yeah, that's what we've got here. A little bit more. There we go. Okay. Right, so that's off. Seems to be metal rather than plastic. So I can't. Yeah. So I can't see it's almost melted it already if they've had the heat in here. They take this off first. Okay. Well, at first sight, it looks fairly clean. It doesn't look like there's any flux on here like anybody's been in. This with a heat gun. Does this lift off easily? Possible this has never been taken off by the looks of it. It doesn't look like it has, so it was quite clean. So the first thing we'll do is let's get the microscope and I'll have a good look around this card and let me see if I can actually see anything broken off. Okay guys, I've noticed a couple of things here. So one of them is that there's some sort of damage to the PCB here. You can see it. It's like something chipped off it or something. I mean, this could have even happened. I was just trying to open it up, but it was so hard to get this thing opened up. But we need to probably have a look to see if this circuit trace here is damaged. That's one thing I think I need to have a look at. I can zoom down here, but you can have a look and see what we think of this. But let's get on to it. So, it looks to me like there are 2 circuit traces and one of them is broken. Maybe. Is there 2 circuit traces? I don't know, it's kind of like the edge of this thing here. I'm just following it around now. You're just like following the edge and see where it goes. So it seems like let's get some focus on it. Oh. Well, there's certainly something there. That's for sure. That's guaranteed. There's something there that we need to have a look at to see what's happened. The other problem I noticed. The other problem I noticed is a bit further across here, here somewhere. Yeah, here. So some bodies obviously being here, attempted to solder something, and whoever they are, they're not able to do it. Yeah, that's a joke. There was somebody trying to solder. So we need to clean that off as well, and let's have a look to see what's gone on here. Yeah. I'll see if I can find a board view for this, and that might give me some idea. I mean, maybe this is where they say something was broken off. Maybe the guy's fairly honest about this. Okay, so we've got a couple of things there that we need to look at on this board. I think the best idea, guys, is to clean this mess up, and now let's have a look to see what we've actually got here. So we'll get a little bit of flux. There we go, a bit of flux onto the area. Hopefully this guy who sold me this is watching. I'll teach you how to solder, yeah. Okay, so that's got that bit. And let's see what's here. That's got that bit. And I think that's about it. I'll take a bit of solder braid as well, just clean that little area up, and then we can have a look to see what's underneath here. Okay, so solder braid. Okay, that's it, guys. That's not so difficult, is it? I don't really understand why you would have such a mess. Bad tools and bad workmanship, basically, yes. Okay, let's get that flux off there. Let's see what we've actually got now. Okay, guys, I've cleaned that up. So let's see what we've got here. It looks to me like we have, and I'm just using the tools a bit more like it. The track which is coming along here, up here, I need some new tweezers. And then this looks like it goes to this via here, so that looks like that track should go along there. So we need to check to make sure that's actually got continuity and it's not being broke. I think you probably have, these just got a bit of guns really. This via goes to the end of this, and this is obviously a capacitor C something, yeah, you can see there. C57 I would say, or C58 is next to it, so this is C57, goes to here. Then it looks like this then has a via, and this is a coil LB6, yeah, and then that goes to this via, and this looks to me like this has been broken off. So I think what we have here is one missing coil if it was fitted. This looks clean, I suspect it probably was, and one missing capacitor. We need to just check out a couple of these traces to make sure they actually go where they should. So I think we'll get the yeah, let's see if we find the schematic for this, or a board view would even be better. We can find a board view, but even with the schematic LB6 and C57, we can probably work out what's actually missing. It also looks like there might be some damage here, there, and there. So really, whoever's been at this is made a good mess of it. You know, they've tried hard here, haven't they? They've obviously tried hard here, to do that. Okay, let's see if we can find the schematic, or if I can find the board view for this board. I asked on Badcap's forum about these missing components, and I didn't get an answer after a day. So then I put it on the Learn Electronics Repair Discord, and somebody came back to me on there and posted a little diagram, which is a segment of a schematic from a GTX 980 Ti reference card. So this is not actually the same manufacturer. But he said that this missing component here is basically the same on both. And I can see here quite clearly C57 is a 4.7 microfarad, 16 volts. And then this LB just says bead 0603. So it's an inductor bead, and this is on the PEX supply. This is not a buck regulator or anything that's running at high frequency. So basically this bead is just filtering out noise, or any bits of noise, and I don't believe it's actually critical as a value. But anyway, I've got a 780 Ti, I've got a couple of them here, just scrap ones, donables. So we can have a look on there. I also have these in stock anyway. Out of interest, C58, which is present 47 microfarad, is a 4 volt, and these are 16s, but this rail PEX is like the 0.9 volts, so quite wide, you put 16 volts. instead of anything lower they could have used here. I don't know. I guess it's just what was available. Okay, so let's have a look at our donor board. If I can't find what I want on there, I've got this these capacitors, and I'm sure I can find some bead and just stick one in here, and then let's see what happens. What I had in mind, this is a scrap 780 Ti, which it's a kind of similar thing in a way to ours. And on the back of it, sorry, on the front of it, I can actually see not the same but a similar kind of circuit here, maybe, or maybe very similar. So on this one we have this LB6 again, yeah, and C57, C58, and that looks to be, to me,
oh, that old horse chestnut here, about gum.
Circuit. In fact, it's practically identical.
I know he's a scouse, but like,
So I'm going to take LB6 off here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to take C57 off as well, although I know what.
I'll take the C57 off,
like. Those two.
Fucking take off, like.
This. Capacitor. I just want to make sure that track isn't actually broken. So we'll check that track first, and then we'll take the two parts from here, we'll put them onto here. And then I think we'll do the next stage, because we've only done a visual check on this. So we'll check resistances, and then we'll try and power it up and check voltages. Okay, so let's get the microscope and have a look at this possibly damaged track. So what I could see before, and I'll just look down the microscope, it's easier for me. The meter's on resistance mode with the bleeper. So there's a resistor over here, R78. And that goes to this track, which is coming along here. And it goes to this via. I can sort of see a bit of it scratched away there, yeah? And I'm wondering if this track is actually broken or stripped. So what I need to do first is try and figure out if I've actually got any continuity here. Yeah, I've got someone, I'm making the contact. So there's continuity to there. Yeah, it's okay. I've got continuity to the via. Just get this so I can actually see the meter myself and make sure it wasn't actually really some resistance. It was actually really short. Let me just go again onto that via. Find where I am. Yeah. So that definitely going to there. The other one that was a little bit suspect is the one above it. So thinking if the other one's okay, this is probably okay. I think the easiest way with this is going to be just to scrape away a little bit of the track. Here, if we just get it a little bit, there we go, got a little bit there. And just get a little bit this side somewhere. Okay, and then do we have a connection from here? Do we have a connection from here? No, I'd say we don't.
Those tracks are broken. They are tiny.
Also a little bit broken, so that's there. What is this one?
The algorithm seems to think I'm interested in electronics repair on the graphics card.
That one's okay.
And here I am watching it, so...
Don't forget this one again.
Maybe?
This one doesn't look good to me. Okay, so we need to have a look at that. I need to find something.
Have a look at it. Luke.
To scrape away at it. I hope you can see where I was then, by the way. I think it's possibly moved. So, I'll show you again in case you couldn't see. So, there's these two tracks coming here, yeah? The top one, I'm actually connecting here. I'm connecting here. I can actually get a connection on this one. Okay. But the bottom one, which comes past here, I do have. Okay, I do have. That's fine. That's what I was trying to do, guys, to see. It just looked like maybe it was like broken there. but it isn't. Okay. The other thing I noticed when I first looked at this was this. Just get down to it without moving it too much. Yeah, this chunk missing here. And I thought this was a track, but this is not a track. This is just the edge of this large area of copper. You can see it there, just like a raised edge. That's what we can see there. So I don't think that's a problem either. So I'll change the two components off the donor board. Let's see what actually happens.
Was I going to go down there for some reason? What was it for?
Okay, so I've changed those parts over from the donor boards. Let's have a quick look to see if we've got continuity through this coil. So there's a via here that goes, yeah. So that's soldered in nicely. Okay, so I think the thing we need to do now is actually measure some resistance on this board, see if we can spot any other problems with it. Okay, so let's just go around all the main rails. We have then coming in 12 volts, no short there. I actually want to ohms range, you can see a bit easier. So this is 12 volts coming in, looks like it goes through a fuse here, which is really the same both sides, so we know the fuse is okay. Yeah, it's good. There's 3.3, 1, 2, 3, fourth one. No
These aren't working. Why are they not working?
Ohm, yeah. Oops, my wire
No fuel.
Okay. V-core. 3 ohms, that was good. 3 ohms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 phases. So I'm guessing these two are probably going to be the RAM. That's reading 15. That's a bit lower than I thought. That's reading 15 as well. If that's the RAM phase, that's unusually low, I think. Samsung RAM, Samsung reads a bit low, I don't know. Not sure about that. This one, 27k. These will be the 12 volts coming in, I would think. These will be not buck regulators, but filters. Let's have a look. There's a fuse here. The fuse is intact, another one here. So I'm going through the fuse and the coil basically. Fuse intact, and these will go to the. About 12 volts here somewhere. Connection on it, yeah. Check to ground for shorts, no shorts, no shorts. So the one thing I'd say about this, so there's another little regulator down here. That's reading 1.8k, one here, 0.46k. The one thing I'd say here with this is the RAM phase seems to be reading considerably lower than I would have expected. But I think the next thing to do here now is just to power this up. Let's power it up and let's see what voltage rails we have and let's see what it actually does. Okay, so let's go start off with VRAM, since that's the one with the rather slightly unusually low resistance to my mind on that one. So just switch that on. Let's boot it up and let's see what we actually get. Well, we got VRAM, that's good. What we got on V-core? It bleeped. Well, we have V-core, we have VRAM. It's not overly hot yet. Let me just see if I've actually got any image coming off this. It did give me one bleep, so you never know. Let's go to HDMI. No, I don't have a picture. I have a blue. Oh, I do have. Okay, so this one might just be what the guy said. Basically, that two components got broken off, which we've just replaced. And yeah, you never know, guys. That actually might be an honest seller on this one, and it might just be that that's what it was. So what I'll do is I'll put this one back together, and then let's load the drivers and let's see what it actually does. And no, of course it doesn't work. I mean, come on, Richard, do you think it's going to be that easy? Yeah, no, not yet, no. So, this card gives a picture on the BIOS screen. I have it on the screen. And I load into Windows and I get a picture until I try to load the drivers. Well, actually, no, I get a picture even after I've tried to load the drivers. The problem is, when I load the drivers, it doesn't find the card. It says the card isn't there. And if I go into Specky or into Device Manager, the card isn't there. It's not there, but it's giving a picture. I mean, you know. Well, so that little rant now. So there's something with graphics cards. I don't know what it is, but these ones I get off eBay, and these ones that subscribers send me to repair. I'll often fix a problem with broken components, no power on the PEC. Fix it. I've now got all the power rails. So you think, come on, you think that is a reasonably good reason to expect this to work? Yeah? No. And it's not the first time. I had the broken resistor on the GTX 750 Ti of this price. Fixed it, gets a picture, something wrong with the RAM or people, there's lines on it. And others, you know, you fix some like broken resistor or something, and then or the voltage, yeah, the VRM isn't running, you get the VRM running, and it comes on, and it won't. It'll crash when you load the drivers. So is it just me? I don't know, but hey, come on, this is making some interesting videos on the YouTube channel, yeah? So rant over, let's see if we can actually fix this thing, or at least figure out why it's actually working. So here's our card that isn't there, but it gives a picture out of the DVI connector. I mean, I'm sure that's something to do with the fact that this motherboard has onboard video, because when I stuck in the other motherboard that doesn't have onboard video, it doesn't detect it. I don't actually understand the mechanism of how does it give a picture if it's not there, and I'm sure somebody's going to educate me on this channel and tell me how does it give a picture if it ain't there, yeah? It doesn't exist. So, we've checked all the voltages on this, but there's a couple of things I want to check that I didn't check previously. The first one is the ref clock. So you have a ref clock on the first couple of fingers, which side is it? Yeah, on the back here, after the gap, pins 2 and 3, so this is the first after the gap, yeah, which isn't in one, just the first after the gap. And if you can look, that just tells you to me, you probably see where the two tracks come from here, yeah, going into here. And this is like, it's a PCIe lane, it's what do you call it, LVDS, low voltage differential signal. So you've got 2 pins here, and if we put the meter onto diode mode, they should be the same. And they read open circuit. I'm not on diode mode. Just wipe the sweat from my brow and go to diode mode, because this won't work in resistance mode. So pins 2 and 3. The 2 is reading 748. And I can't say exactly what they should read, but I can tell you what they should do. They should both read the same. Yeah? And they shouldn't be shorted to each other. You see like the resistance between them, yeah. Okay, so they're not shorted to each other, they do read. Let's go to this side. So this is almost the same but slightly different. Same but different. So in this one, it's numbers 3 and 4 after the slot, not 2 and 3. And this is the first transmit lane, like PCIe lane 0, and the transmit signal. And this is where the card returns the information back to the PC to say I'm here, this is what I am. And this is how it detects the card. Yeah, so let's have a look. Pin 3, 526. Probably read different from the other side, from the ref clock. 526, you both read the same. And they're not correct, it's Georgie to each other. So, this comes from a couple of things now. The first thing that occurs to me is, does this card detect in Linux? If I run Linux, does it see the card? So it doesn't see it in Windows, does it see it in Linux? Yeah. If it doesn't see it in Linux either, it's got some serious problem, I think. The other thing that occurs to me, that it's possible somebody has corrupted the BIOS on this, or loaded the BIOS, overclocked it, and it's now not working, or it's just become corrupted or failed. So the other thing I'm interested in is, first of all, does it actually try to read the BIOS? So we're getting an oscilloscope on the chip side of the BIOS, and if it does read the BIOS, and we can see there's data coming from the BIOS, is that data actually any good, or is it, effectively bad data? So it just doesn't find it. Yeah?
Batman data.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do then is to boot into Linux and see if we can actually see this card. Okay guys, I've put the camera best I can so you can see the screen. So I've booted from the King's Overkill Linux discs, the one I actually did a tutorial on this channel, and I will link it from this one. And I have the onboard video enabled, so it doesn't actually run with onboard video. You have to switch your onboard video off to run the automatic tests on this. So it just boots to a prompt, but this is Linux, so this is just what we need. So the first thing we're going to do is see if the computer can actually see the graphics card, and the Linux command for doing this is ls for list, ls PCI. -v verbose, that will give you a lot of information about each thing. Basically, I think I'll put a V. You can't read it, can you? That's probably a bit clearer, so I'll put -m actually, so it's -v. Yeah. Okay, so ls PCI -v. And if we run this, this will actually now list the PCI devices. You can see we've got the Intel processor, which is the graphics, but we don't actually see our graphics card. So if we now try to run a memory test, it won't work. So to run a memory test, we just need to go into a folder with maths. So ls will list all the various folders, and you can see there we have ones for each type of graphics card. So we're going to the GTX 980i. So it's CD to change directory, CD GTX 980i. Okay. And we're in there now. ls will actually list all the programs in there. And we have on here on this side, you can probably see mods, maths, yeah. So it's there. So from here, if we try to run maths memory test, because the graphics card's not there, it won't actually work. So maths -e 12, which, well, let's say 5. Let's test 5 megabytes. So -e is the argument, and after that is the size in megabytes. Pipe, which is the two vertical lines. Should be on my keyboard somewhere. Pipe less. So this will send the information to a command called less that allows you to view it screen by screen. So if we run that, you'll see it didn't actually run a memory test. So we're back in the folder, and again we can list the PCI devices. And you can see that that's a list of all devices, yeah? If we go to LSPCI -v, the verbose, that'll just give us the information on what we want there, yeah? So it's just in the processor basically, it's not seeing this graphics card. So what we can try now, we can try to force it to start, to restart the card. And we can do this with mods, which is another application on here. And this is how you do it. So it's mods, GPU test, and then it's .js, probably JavaScript or something, JS, I don't really know. And then it's -skip, RM, state, in it. Minus CFG. Sorry, not minus CFG. Minus MFG. MFG. So the skip RM state in it is actually telling it to skip the memory test when the board powers up. So let's see if it, or at least I believe that's what it's doing, that's what I understand it's doing. So we can now run this command and let's see if this will actually initialize our graphics card. And yes, it did. Give it a few seconds and it's come up with a fail. Now, the reason I know it actually initialized the graphics card is because up here, under device ID, we have GM200. And if you Google that, you will find that is a GTX 980 Ti. So it now knows it's there. So what we can now do is we can tell Matt to test it. Now we need to do this in a slightly different way. So Matt's, and then we have a different parameter, minus N for Norman, yeah? Minus N1. That tells it its device, PCI device index 1. I believe index 0 is the CPU onboard graphics. So minus M1, minus E 5 meg, yeah, and we'll send this to the less command so we can actually read it. Let's just go less. And it's now running the memory test, so it knows the card's there now. It's running the memory test. Give it a few seconds. Okay, and it's run it. And we can just press enter and we can now see. So at the top it's saying testing GM200 with 5 meg of data. And it's basically giving us a number of errors on each RAM channel. Yeah? So 31512, and these are write errors. So there's basically a number of, there seems to be no read errors, but a number of write errors. And it seems to be on all the channels, yeah, A, B, C, D, E, and F, on both the high bits and the low bits. So this definitely has a problem somewhere to do with the memory controller possibly, or the RAM, or maybe even to do with the supply voltage to both, which I'm going to check in a minute. Out of interest, I'm just going to try this again and see if I get the same results. So if you remember 31512, 31813 at the top two, yeah? So let's actually run it again. Okay. No, and you can see that the number of errors is changed. So it's not the same every time. So now we need to determine what that actually means in terms of our graphics card. Just power this up and let's see what voltage on this card. Okay, 1 moment, power it. So this is RAM, I'm guessing. 1.35, yeah. What's this one? That's a 5 volt regulator in actual fact. This is PEX, so I don't know if it's PEX, it's 1 volt. A bit higher than I thought. And I'm guessing this is the V-Core, 0.973. I'm not sure if these voltages are quite right here. They seem a bit wrong to me. I'm just wondering if somebody's tried to overclock this card and altered the settings in the BIOS for various voltages, and maybe that's why it's now acting up. So it appears to be that there's, you know, problems on all of the RAM banks, but the problems are not the static, they're not the same. Yeah, they change each time you start it up. So let's have a look to see which BIOS is on this. I don't know if it's a 3.3 or a 1.8 volt BIOS. If it's 3.3, I've got a programmer. If it's 1.8 volt, I haven't got a programmer. So let's just get the thing on plug. So let's have a quick look. I can see what look like they might be BIOS chips, maybe this one. Let's get the microscope and let's have a look. Okay, so this is the EEPROM. You can see it's here, 25Q21BT. If we just go over to the data sheet, we can see GD25Q21B. I'm sure this is the right one. And just a quick look at it tells me it's a 3.3 volts. But actually, we can check that very easily anyway. I mean, you can see the chip here in pin 8 is the power, so we can just go and measure the power on pin 8. If it's 3.3, then that's what it is. This is a 3.3, so I can program it with my programmer. I'm just waiting for a 1.8 volt programmer. So what I need to do now is go and find a BIOS file for this graphics card, this factory one as standard.
Oops.
And let's see what it does then.
Smash my card to pieces.
Okay, so I've had a look on the internet, and I do know about this site anyway. So a site called Tech Power Up is the place to find.
I'm going to walk on the railway.
And it came up here anyway. It's pretty much the first one.
Will I survive versus the train?
It's actually saying this is an unverified file, upload not verified by us. So I've downloaded that one.
Oh, looks like it didn't come off completely unscathed.
Another one, overclock.net. There's one here as well. Someone's requesting a BIOS. I don't know if there's one here. Oh, in fact, that's actually referring me back to the. It said I can use any of the 980 Ti 6GB BIOSes. Yeah. Any of these G1 BIOSes will work on that card. So let's have a look here. So G1 BIOSes. I guess that's all of these. So we say any of these will work as well. Yes, G1, any of these. So we can also grab one of these as well, and then we can have a look to see if it works with ours. So yeah, this is the latest one, 0068. 60, yeah, looks like this is the most recent one, I'm just guessing. Okay, let's have that one as well. So we've got a couple of BIOS files here, which we can try with our card. Okay, so let's now get the EEPROM chip off this card, and let's put it onto the program, and let's see what we can do with it. I've put the EEPROM onto the programmer, so I have to solder with this little adapter and then fit it into the programmer. But my programmer doesn't support this EEPROM. It's not on the list of supported devices. So once again, I had to ask on Badcaps for them, and I got an answer fairly shortly actually. So if we just go over, I can show you. Again, this is me asking on badcaps.net forum. It's a great place to ask for advice on stuff you're not sure of. It's free, so do join here if you're not a member. Tell them Dickie96 sent you. Yeah, that's my username on there. And basically, anyway, this is the chip I have, 25Q21BT, and it's not on the supported list. And this guy came back to me and told me to use a different one, which is the equivalent 25X20CL. So that's what I'm going to do. So we can try and program our chip using this other option which is recommended on the laptop. So this is the actual chip, W25X20CL. It gives me a choice of a few packages. Small outline IC 8-pin is mine. So we can select that one. And then we can tell this to read the chip. So we choose read, okay. You see straight away I'm getting an error. It's saying ID error, and it's given me an ID here, 0xC84012. And that ID is actually the correct ID for this chip, the 25Q21. It's not the correct ID for this chip. So what we need to do is we need to remove the check ID and then tell it to read the chip again. So there we go, and now it's reading it, or at least it says it's reading it. So it's done that, read successful. And we can see we have some context from the chip. Now we have a look down here, just flicking through it. You'll see some stuff that's actually written. Look, here we go. NVIDIA Corporation GM200 board. That is reading the chip. This is like the name for this. Whether that's their code name, GM200 is the GTX 980 Ti. You can go and Google that, will tell you that. So this definitely read it for us. So what we want to be doing now with this is first of all saving it. So we'll save this file. I have it in, let's get to the right folder where I've put it. So I think I made a folder called GTX 980 Ti. Let's have a look. If it didn't, I just wouldn't. They are GTX 980 BIOS. Okay, so they're in here. So we'll save this and we'll call it original. The reason you can't see them all at the moment, by the way, is because I've just taken a bin file. I think the ones are a different format. Yeah, the ROM files, but it's the same thing. So we'll stick that in there. So we've now saved the file. Now let's have a look to see, out of interest, how that compares to the ones which I downloaded. I'm just using Total Commander then to compare the two binary files. So we go files compare by content. This is the bin file. And this one on this side, originally we can choose the gigabyte file, the one which is a verified file and it should work. So we choose the two and compare, and we find that there's some differences between these two files. I mean, this is saying there's 192 differences, which I think it actually highlights them in red. So there are quite a lot of differences between the two files. We just come out of there, so we just close this and we go back into the comparison. So I'm not quite sure how to clean it, how to clear it. So we have original bin. We can now actually compare this with this one, 179788 bin. This is the one that somebody uploaded onto the website, and it's not verified. When we put these two together and we compare these, we now find it practically identical, but there's only one difference, or so it says, although from what I can see there's more than one difference, there's quite a few. Just at the end here, yeah? So what I'm going to try and do, because I don't know where the problems with this graphics card, is I'm going to actually try the more generic file, this one, and I'm going to write that with the EEPROM program into our EEPROM, and I'm going to try it. The fact this is a ROM file and these are bin files doesn't matter. In fact, I renamed that one from ROM to bin myself. So it doesn't matter which they are. The program is quite happy to work with both. So we can now go to our EEPROM program. We can actually try to write this file to the EEPROM. So we have Mini Pro, and we have the chip. So we now want to load the file which we actually want to program into it. So we're going to put this one in. Okay? That's picked up the file. And there are apparently quite a lot of differences. Again, we can read these first parts in here, yeah? It says something about it. So let's just try this, I mean, GM200 again. We can always put the other one in. Let's just try this and let's see whether it actually makes any difference. So I'm going to take the check ID off, because obviously I've chosen a different chip that's supposed to be compatible. I'm going to hit program, and I'm going to just tell it to program it, so let's see what it actually does. Yeah, so it's erasing it. It seems happy to program it with these settings, verify the code memory, and it's done. Okay, so that's now programmed, so we can actually put it back onto our board, solder it back on, and let's see if it now actually does anything different than it did before. Okay, so I tried it with that BIOS, and it actually still wouldn't even detect. I was going into Linux, and it wouldn't even detect. That was with like the kind of generic one. So what I've done is now I've actually reprogrammed the BIOS chip again with one that I downloaded that said it was like unverified, yeah, on Tech Power. And you can see now that when I run in Linux the lspci command, and it's listing the devices, we now have the graphics card, yeah, NVIDIA Corporation GM200, GeForce GT 980TX. So it's seeing that now on Linux without me having to
on Linux, no, you're saying fucking Linux. You're fucking bellend. Linux.
Well, this looks a bit more promising, guys, because it now actually sees an NVIDIA Microsoft basic display adapter. So it sees it, at least it sees it there now, it didn't see it before. I'm going to see if I can actually load the GTX 980 Ti drivers, if it actually will work. So I'll get those loaded and let's have a look. So this time it actually detects it now, it runs with compatibility. It actually does find the thing, yeah, the graphics card. So I'm now going to install the drivers. I'll just do the normal Express, whatever. I think there's no drivers on this anyway. Never been installed before. It's a fresh Windows 10. So I'm just going to let this install now. Now let's see if this actually is going to be fixed. Well, it's looking promising. I mean, it went black and changed resolution twice. I mean, normally at that point on loading the drivers is when they seem to fail to me, so they just go black and never come back. But no, it's like switched resolution twice. I'm getting some 1920 now. It's continuing to load. Also, I've noticed the graphics card now actually has control of the fans, so it's decided itself to switch 2 of the fans off, just the middle one running. So again, let us finish, and then let's see if we actually have a good working card here now. Okay, and we're running Fairmark at 108, 110 frames per second at 1920. So this is working. I'm going to open it back up and just put some fresh MX4 heatsink compound on it. It's been opened and closed a few times, so I just want some fresh putting on there. So yeah, that looks like it's good, but I mean the temperatures are running kind of okay. It's certainly not overheating at the moment. As I will put, I think this is going to end up in my i7 5820K rig, because it's actually faster, I believe, than my GTX 1060, which is the fastest I have at the moment. So yeah, that's looking nice. I think you'll agree that was quite an interesting repair. Just let it finish now. It's almost on.
Nice.
Temperature's 72. All the fans are running quite happily. Come on. Okay, and that
soldered the missing components, put the original BIOS on it, and now he's got himself a working.
So that's the second out of this batch of 13 spares or repaired graphics cards from eBay that's actually working. I have 3 waiting for parts. I have one that a monkey had been at it with a heat gun and trashed the GPU. That was the 1070, so that's the donor board. And I have 5 still stuck in the UK. I haven't had a chance to look at yet. But yeah, so far I think that's not bad. I mean, the 2 I've repaired have gone a long way to pay sort of about £300 I paid for the whole lot of 13. My thoughts on that one, and I've just quickly discussed it, and then it's time to go home, but I think it's likely that this one, somebody decided to flash the BIOS and corrupted it, or flashed it with content that it was not able to run with, yeah, and then because he couldn't get it to detect the Windows anymore, they couldn't do anything with it. Then it possibly went through eBay into a repair shop. I doubt it's a repair shop because that was not that difficult to fix, especially when you're doing all that every day. I'm still learning to some extent. But either that or it's been onto eBay or spares and repair through a couple of people who've then ended up breaking 2 components off the board, and then it's come to me. That's what I think is a likely chain of events on this one. It'd be interesting to hear you guys commenting in the comments below. Yeah, let me know what you think. Anyway, nice repair. That one's going to go in one of my rigs, as I say, because it's actually now the best graphics card I actually own, and I'm quite happy, to be honest. I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope you learned some stuff on there. Yeah, we kind of went the long way round to the BIOS in the end, but I think it was fun, and I've taught you how to do a RAM test on boards that won't detect on Linux. If it still won't detect when you force it, like I did, to detect by ignoring memory errors, the chances are your problem isn't RAM. But it could be that your problem is a corrupted BIOS, because when I put that first BIOS in, which was like a kind of like a generic one for 980 Ti's, it wouldn't detect. And then when I put in the unverified one, both from Tech Power by the way, it then worked. And in the unverified one, we actually read the contents on the screen. I didn't show you, but it actually had in the BIOS file the name of the model, the actual one this is, yeah. So there you go. I enjoyed making that. I'm sure you enjoyed watching it. See you all very soon on another video. Adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos. fucking Liverpudlian thinks he's like fucking la-di-da, look at me. I can use them fancy words like you've never heard before. Because I'm from up... No.
Hello, cave dwellers. Welcome into the cave for a trash to...
No! No, you're not going to welcome me. I'm going to eat food now, so I'm going away. Stop watching.